Hey guys, and welcome to a video covering AoE, aka Area of Effect, and how it works in Runescape 3. So when you're ready, grab your cup of tea, sit back, relax, and enjoy. So, as you all know, or may not know, there are plenty of weapons that let you do AoE damage, aka Area of Effect. These all are different. For example, with melee, you have halberd type weapons like the halberds, the Thalasia's Revenge, Masuda's War Spear, Dragon Rider Lance, and of course the best or highest tier halberd type weapon, the Noxious Scythe. For range, you have various Chinchompas, Mechanized Chinchompas being the best, and the Decimation Special, which lets all of your attacks become Area of Effect attacks for around 10 seconds. And the SGB, aka Seren Godbow Special, which hits enemies in a 5x5 area. And for magic, you don't really have specific weapons, but you do have the ancient magic spells that let you do AoE damage when using an auto cast. As for abilities, there are plenty of Area of Effect abilities, and all of these work differently. Some work in a similar manner, but a lot of them are very different. As for Sunshine, Death Swiftness, and the ZGS spec, aka the Black Hole, I will not be including these in the video, but I will briefly mention them, and I will not be including the familiar specials that hit multiple targets as well. I'll be focusing on the basic or general abilities that everyone has unlocked when playing RuneScape 3. But to do that, you need to understand the basics of RuneScape 3 Area of Effect abilities or damage. Now, RuneScape 3 Area of Effect abilities work with tiles. Each tile is every step you take in game. Take this example with me using my free-to-play alts in Clan Wars. As you can see, the pets are standing on one tile and so are the other alt accounts. Each step is one tile. Most AoE abilities work with a 3x3 Area of Effect. Now before we delve into all of the abilities, take this simple example. If I would be using Meteor Strike, Hurricane, or Quake with a regular two-handed weapon with no extra range, I will be hitting the alts in the 3x3 radius. If I would be using something like a Dragon Rider Lance or a Scythe, those abilities would have one extra range and therefore hit in a 5x5 radius, and I would have hit the alt account sitting on the edge. And with that being said, let's just start off with the melee abilities first, since we're already talking about melee range. So if you're using a weapon with extra range like a halberd, Dragon Rider Lance, Masuda's War Spear, or Noxious Scythe, you will be getting 5x5 range with the abilities Quake, Hurricane, and Meteor Strike. The Scythe also allows you to attack enemies from a 2-tile radius because you have 1+1 range, and it doesn't matter if this is horizontal or diagonal. Here's an example of a bunch of my clannies and friends helping me out to showcase what it actually looks like in action. And as you can see, while using abilities like Quake, Hurricane, and Meteor Strike, I hit every single one of them because they're all standing in the 5x5 radius. If you're cleaving a target straight in front of you, you'll be hitting an enemy to the left, to the right, and the 3 in front of you. If you're using a halberd type weapon, the initial range of the 3 targets in front of you will be extended by 1. You can clearly see this in the Abyss example. Flurry, just like Quake, Hurricane, and Meteor Strike, will also hit all enemies around you in a 3x3 radius. It does, however, require a dual wield switch. And a brief mention of Bladed Dive. When you dive towards an area, you will get a 3x3 radius in terms of damage, just like Flurry. However, if you're doing this with a Scythe and Laceration Boots, which lets you Bladed Dive using a two-handed weapon, this will be extended to a 5x5 radius. Now before we delve into the ranged abilities, both Ricochet and Chain work exactly the same. Both of these basic abilities are multi-target abilities if they successfully hit their opponent, and they can split up into 2 extra targets, meaning you hit 3 targets total, up to a total of 7 if you have the Roaming 4 perk on your weapon. Now both Chain and Ricochet have a maximum range of 6 tiles after hitting the initial target, meaning there can only be 4 tiles of range in between your target and your secondary target that's going to be hit. And again, much like some other abilities, it doesn't matter if it's horizontal, vertical, or diagonal. Now I know the following clip is a magic clip, but Corruption, Blast, and Shot, both abilities for ranged and magic, which are unlocked from the Mazcap ability codexes, which you can buy off the Grand Exchange, are extremely powerful AoE bleed abilities that bleed 5 times. Once the initial target is hit, they spread around from target to target until the bleeds have ended. The initial target is hit 5 times, then the secondary target is hit 4 times, and what spreads from that secondary target to the third target is hit 3 times, and so on. As for bombardment, as you can see, I'm hitting the target with the fire cape in the middle, and you will hit all enemies or all targets within a 3x3 radius. As for incendiary shot, the exact same thing, 3x3 radius with one exception. If you're using the decimation bow special, which makes all of your attacks AoE, all of your targets, when using this ability at 100% adrenaline, if you can get up there with 10 seconds, will get the incendiary shot ability. And all of them will have the 3x3 explosion radius. And there's an example of an old video I made a long time ago. If you're using corruption shot and the decimation bow special, all of the enemies around you in a 3x3 radius will get the first initial hit, meaning more enemies have a 5 hit bleed compared to a 4 hit bleed. And it will spread onto more enemies in total if there are enough enemies in the room. Chinchompas are a main hand weapon you can use in combination with a offhand ranged weapon like an offhand ascension crossbow or shadow glaive to do AoE damage in a 3x3 area. All the abilities you are using when using mechanized Chinchompas will be AoE, however ability effects like for example with Sacrifice, you getting the heal from that ability will not work on all of the targets and will only work on your main target. Sadly, Tuska's Wrath does not KO all of the Slayer creatures when using mechanized Chinchompas. As you may or may not know, Detonate is a very powerful AoE ability, and when combined with the Blast Diffusion boots is even better. Detonate has the exact same range as a Scythe has when using abilities like Quake, Hurricane, and Meteor Strike, meaning it's by far one of the best AoE abilities for magic when you're doing elite dungeons to clear a bunch of mobs. It's also an ability you can combine with auto attacks and another ability afterwards, which I cover in my other PvM tips and tricks video, which I'll link in the description below. Dragon Breath, just like bombardment, will hit all enemies centered on the target in a 3x3 radius. So again, pretty similar, nothing too special, but again, this is a very powerful AoE basic ability, and when used in combination with Detonate, even better. Now, the next one is pretty interesting, as it's Tsunami. Now, Tsunami is an ultimate ability you might not use too often unless you're doing something like Elite Dungeons or Slayer, where you need to clear a bunch of mobs in front of you. Now, Tsunami's area of effect is a rather large 3x4 area, meaning you hit 3 targets wide, 4 targets deep or long. That's a pretty large area to be hitting targets at, especially if all of your targets are nicely lined up in front of you. But there's a catch. With Tsunami, unlike the other AoE abilities like Bombardment, your area of effect does not move opposed to your character. With Bombardment, if you aim at another target further away, the 3x3 radius will also move further away. With Tsunami, the 3x4 area will always be the same distance from your character. As you see with the example on screen, the furthest away altar count is 5 tiles away, so out of range. The first target, aka the target in the cyan box, is 3 tiles away from our character and therefore will be hit, including with the alt behind it. But Tsunami will never ever hit the altar count behind the 3x4 radius because the origin of the Tsunami ability's range is always originated from your character's tile. Or better said, your character's position. And finally, definitely worth mentioning are the Smoke, Shadow, Blood, Ice, Burst, and Barrage spells, part of the Ancient Magics. These all hit targets in a 3x3 area, and some have special effects like healing you with Blood Rage, or with Ice Barrage stunning your opponents. Now, if you guys found this video interesting or helpful, I do have a playlist filled with videos that may be useful to you if you're getting into PvM, including gearing guides, DPS for beginners, and much more. So I'll leave a link to that playlist down in the description below if you're interested. And I've noticed that around 80% of my viewers are not subscribed, so if you're interested in more RuneScape content or you've been watching a bunch of my videos, feel free to subscribe to stay notified of any recent uploads. And with that being said, catch you guys in the next one. Peace.